They don't want anyone to have financial privacy or online privacy anymore. And that's what part of this agenda about a regulated internet is. And it directly ties in with stuff like a central bank digital currency, at least what people are concerned about a CBDC for, which is the surveillance capability and the programmability aspect. It's all tied up with this effort to regulate the internet, which isn't really fair to say it's regulating the internet. It's more like taking complete control of the internet, a complete coup of the internet for unprecedented surveillance and control of people's online lives. At the same time that you have these same entities pushing for people to live their lives online as much as possible, as part of the fourth industrial revolution and all of this other stuff. Like we saw in the COVID era, we're locking down. You can't go out and do stuff in the physical world. You have to be online as much as possible. Education's online. Work is online. As much of your life as possible has to be online now because you can't go in person to the bank. You can't go in person to this. You should order your groceries through your phone and all of this stuff, So they're pushing us more and more into the digital realm, and at the same time preparing to take more control of the digital realm than they have now by a significant degree. And that's not a coincidence. I'm sorry if you think that's coincidental. That's very naive of you.
Whitney Webb is convinced that the future is unfolding before our eyes, and it's imperative for people to remain aware of the trajectory we're headed towards. She warns of a future dominated by central bank digital currencies, pervasive surveillance, and the erosion of online privacy. Webb predicts that in the years 2024 and 2025, there will be aggressive power grabs aimed at seizing control of the internet, all in the name of unprecedented surveillance and manipulation. According to Webb, major entities and governments worldwide are collaborating to steer society towards a lifestyle where living online becomes the norm. However, she emphasizes that this trend is deeply concerning and will ultimately lead us to a dark place. In her analysis, Webb advocates for the decentralization of power, arguing that control should be returned to the hands of the people. She asserts that Bitcoin has a crucial role to play in shaping this future. Furthermore, Webb highlights the importance of subscribing to channels that provide finance-related content. She urges viewers to consider subscribing, emphasizing that it's a free and reversible decision. Webb then proceeds to delve into the pressing issue of the push for total control. Before we continue with the rest of the video, do check out daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part is it's absolutely free. They'll cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
Well, okay, so obviously when you're talking about the powers that be, there's competing factions. Right? Not all of them agree, but they agree about a lot of the stuff. And a lot of the way these people operate isn't that similar to how rulers operated hundreds of years ago. They want complete and control of money and political power and power more broadly, because then they can do whatever they want for themselves and have a double standard for themselves, but force other people to live a certain way to support their lifestyle. Right? And essentially what we're seeing here is an effort to use technology to entrench that in unprecedented ways so that there's no more need to worry about the peasants revolting. Right. I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. So as an example, this push for a regulated internet and the end of online anonymity and all of that is directly related to the fact that it's a mathematical inevitability that our debt-based monetary system will collapse at some point. And that the banking system, particularly Wall Street and its global equivalents, have engaged in an unprecedented degree of malfeasance and corruption and insane financial gambling activities. And just like 2008, right? That's going to explode at some point. But in 2008, people knew it was the banks and they were mad at the banks, weren't they? So if you're the banks and that's going to happen again, and you're in bed with the intelligence agencies and the government, or in the case of the U.S., you own the central bank, right? You don't want that to happen again. So how do you find a way to blame somebody else for the financial system imploding? And when you bring the financial system back, what do these people, people like Jamie Dimon and all these top bankers, like what is their ideal scenario for money? and how people interact with and use money. Well, being able to grift as much as you want and take as much as you want from the people under you without them knowing or complaining, because I mean, that's what they've been doing for decades, right? Wall Street. So they want to keep doing that. They don't want to change their behavior. So they want to find a way to be able to steal from the underclass as much as possible without the underclass complaining or revolting, and control how they spend their money. And control their financial and other behavior so that they can maintain their place on the top. So what we're having is the engineering of a neo-feudal society where you have the small upper class and then a massive underclass that the upper class can manipulate and control and, do whatever they want with as they see fit. And so that's what I think the ambition of a lot of these various initiatives we're seeing for unprecedented control and surveillance are aimed at. And the goal is to use technology, whether it's AI or any of these other emerging technologies, to be able to do that, because obviously there's so much more of us than there are of them. And so in order to scale what they want to scale, to be able to deal with the huge difference in size between their class and our class, they feel like, they need these emerging technologies. They need AI. And that's why I see AI as a largely negative thing, because the people that want to do this are the ones setting it up and programming it and deciding what its objectives are. How do people get into the elite? Not everyone that's in the elite today was born into it, right? I mean, they cultivate into their ranks people that are like, psychopaths, right?
Do you get a tap on the shoulder? Controlled
by greed and all of that stuff to come flesh it out, right? Or people they think are talented that they think they can use, and that will, if they're offered a big piece of the pie or a big enough piece of the pie, will join them, right? So it's not like these people are the people that have been there since the 1500s, and they're all still that today. You know what I mean? But I mean, in terms of the behavior of like a ruling elite, it's very similar to what it was in the feudal era, like in the Dark Ages, which again, how did the Dark Ages succeed so successfully in that? Extreme control of information. It was all in the church, right? No one knew how to read and write but them. So it was, again, centralized control of information and also of money. And we're going to that same paradigm again, but, for the modern era. So all this technology is going to try and set up those systems for us. And I think people need to be really aware of all these, in the next couple of years, without a doubt, there's going to be these events, whether it's like COVID or 9/11 or whatever, they're not going to be the same as those, but they're going to be these big events that generate a lot of fear and panic, and mainstream media is going to be traumatizing people with it, and then are going to sell a particular solution. And when it comes for the internet, or the financial system, they're going to make the enemy privacy. They're going to make the enemy privacy 100%. And the solution is going to be digital IDs and programmable, surveillable money. It doesn't have to be CBDCs, by the way. I mean, CBDCs, I think most people know, are going to be that, but it doesn't. It's not just CBDCs. There is a goal, there is a push from the banks themselves, some of the most powerful banks in the world, to have, at least in some countries, a different system that's not a CBDC, because with a CBDC, they can't do fractional reserve banking. And so that's what deposit tokens are all about. Tokenizing deposits, and you can make those programmable and you can surveil them. And it's really just like a CBDC, but they won't call it that. But then the bank controls all the reserves, and maybe they'll bank some of their reserves at the Fed, or whatever, but they can still do fractional reserve banking and credit creation and all of this stuff, and not actually have to keep a one-to-one peg of reserves like CBDCs or like a fiat peg stablecoin. And so there's a push for that too, at an international level. It's not just in the US, but it's definitely happening in the US. And I would argue that's one of the reasons that you have the Federal Reserve, which is again owned by Wall Street banks in the US, being like, we're not going to do a direct issued CBDC. And freedom advocates in the US are like, yeah, the Fed's on our side because of that. No, it's not. The Fed is 100% always on the side of Wall Street banks, and Wall Street banks only don't want a CBDC because they don't want to give the Federal Reserve their power. They want to keep their power, and they want to keep doing fractional reserve banking. So, I mean, this is stuff that people need to keep in mind. And ultimately, I think a lot of There's a lot of cultural issues with celebrity in the West, where people have been trained to wait for a political savior who's going to come and save us of all of our problems, and no one actually has to do anything, and we can just sit back and wait for the right person to run for office, and then we all vote for them, and then this one person is magically gonna save us from all of our problems. People have sort of been primed to feel that way. I mean, you can argue maybe like superhero movies and religion maybe and all other sorts of stuff has shaped us to be like that culturally, but that is a problem. What we should do is take responsibility for what we need to survive and what our communities need to survive, and get as local as possible and not be so dependent on these people at the national level or assume that one person can fix everything, because that hasn't worked. And things are more complicated now than they've been in a very long time. And can we really wait for the right person and put all our trust in this theoretical one person who's going to save everything? I don't think so. I think that time is better spent, learning how to do some stuff yourself, taking responsibility for your own life and your well-being and your family's well-being, right? A lot of people in alternative media are going to promote certain figures. Maybe they're funded by them, maybe they're not, right? But ultimately, a lot of what keeps the current system in power is our trust in it, or our, like the financial system in particular, right? Trust is super fundamental to that, but it doesn't deserve our trust, right? The current system. And so we need to withdraw our consent from the system and our trust in these people who have spent decades and decades and decades screwing everyone over. It's time to put our trust in people who actually deserve it. And a lot of times in any one person's life, the people you actually know you can trust are people at the local level. And so I think, it's time to kind of start there. And, that sort of leads into the whole idea of like decentralization also, that like the more power goes back to the local level, the less power the national or state or whatever has, And there needs to be a power shift towards the public and towards the people. And we can't just wait for the right politician to be put in charge of the state to give that to us, right? We have to do that ourselves, because as we've historically seen, the state, whether it's capitalist or communist, accumulates more money and power for itself.
Whitney Webb's insights reveal a challenging road ahead, urging us to remain vigilant. She highlights the concerning shift towards central bank digital currencies, increased surveillance, and the erosion of online privacy. The looming power grabs aimed at monopolizing internet control for unprecedented surveillance and manipulation mark a critical juncture in our digital age. Webb sheds light on the collaborative efforts of major entities and governments worldwide to digitize our lives further, painting a bleak future. However, amidst these daunting prospects, Webb offers a glimmer of hope. She passionately advocates for decentralizing power, emphasizing the importance of returning control to individuals. In this pivotal moment, Webb underscores the potential of technologies like Bitcoin to reclaim autonomy and reshape our future. As we navigate these transformative times, your engagement and awareness are more crucial than ever. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.